Hey, Blue Table fans, Spencer here, and welcome to part 6, the last video of our Shaltari tips and tactics. And today we're basically covering everything else in the Shaltari army we haven't talked about. That really meaning the 2 infantry units, which are Braves and Firstborns, and a new unit for the Shaltari, which is the Totem War Spire. All of these have their uses, and they're all very interesting, especially the War Spire, but we'll get to that later. First, I want to talk about infantry. Alright, so as of recording, Shaltari have 2 types of infantry. You have Braves, who are kind of your basic infantry, and then you have the Firstborns, which are an exotic choice, and they're close combat specialists. So the Braves are sort of your standard ranged troop. They have Gauss rifles, and then each stand has a discus launcher, whereas the Firstborns are very much close combat specialists. They have energy swords, and then they have wave pistols, which are only used as a special rule. Stat-wise, these are very similar units. They both have armor 4, movement of 3, 3 damage points. They both have a fortitude of 3+. They're both squad and coherency of 2 bases to a squad and base-to-base contact for coherency. They both have a mass of fine 1. So anything that can transport stuff with anything that has a fine gate, so Havens and the Spirit Light Gates can teleport these guys. Where they differ, like I said, is in their weapons, but they also differ in a couple other places. Braves are 32 points, whereas Firstborns are 54. So Firstborns are a little more expensive. Firstborns do also have the dodge rule. They dodge on a 4+. Braves only have a close quarter battle stat of 2, whereas Firstborns have a 4. So they're throwing out a lot more in terms of attack. They're a lot better at actually fighting. Braves are really good for hunkering down in a building and holding an objective, and then shooting out at stuff. And I'll show that off in a second. But now these both have the war suit special rules, so their countermeasures are active with a little asterisk for the war suit rule. Basically, it's they only take effect against weapons of energy 6 or less. You can never sustain more than 1 damage point per hit. Hits from falling masonry always damage on a 5+. So basically, these guys are really resilient, which makes up for their lack of numbers. So let's go over the differences in how to use these guys. Alright, so I've got my little mini city block set up here. And this is where Braves really shine, is getting them into a building and sort of setting them up, because now they have cover of the entire street below them. So they've got all of this covered, because there's not usually going to be stuff here. There might be something here, but I obviously don't have anything there as far as buildings, so I can, move and actually film this. But these guys are great if you plop them in a building like this, because they can shoot out. Because in drop zone, you can only shoot at infantry that's in a building if they've shot out. Otherwise, you don't know where in the building they are. Now, you can shoot the building, but it takes a lot longer to kill a building than it does infantry. So they can hold their own pretty well shooting out of a building, and really they're only going to be able to take on sort of lighter targets. Their most powerful weapon is their Gauss rifles, which is energy 8, which is pretty respectable. So they can do decent amounts to main battle tanks, but they're not going to take down really heavy stuff very often. Mostly because once they expose themselves, they're going to get gunned down. Where these guys really excel, in my opinion, is holding objectives and keeping enemy units in other buildings preoccupied. And what I mean by that is, in a situation like this, you've got your Braves in one building and there's a unit of UCM infantry in another building. So the Braves have a really cool special weapon called a discus launcher. And these things are pretty brutal. They're energy 3, so they don't hit hard and they're not going to take on vehicles, but they're 8 shots apiece. They're an accuracy of 3 up. They have a free range of 18 inches, a countered range of 6 inches. They can move and fire 3, so they can move their full movement and still shoot these. But the cool thing is they have something called airburst shells. Basically, they're designed to take out infantry in other buildings. They ignore soft cover. So really, you're getting a lot of shots at your enemy. So you got 2 stands of these. That's 16 shots into these guys who aren't very heavily armored. So it being low energy doesn't matter. And it ignores the soft cover that being in the building grants them. So this is probably one of the best strategies for using Braves outside of actually grabbing objectives. If you can't get to an objective because your opponent, say the objective's in here and your opponent's camping in there banking on killing you, get into this building, wait for them to shoot out. If they've already shot out of the building, you can shoot in at them now, and you've got a crazy amount of shots going at them. It also means any support vehicles coming down this way, you can then shoot out with your Gauss rifles. So they're not going to take out aircraft, but if your opponent's APC is parked down here, boop, you can now blow their APC up, which will strand these guys and leave them there for your discus launchers. Just take care of them. And this is, like I said, this is where Braves shine in my opinion, because the sheer number of shots that just 2 stands of them throws out. Now mind you, this is a full squad, but you can have 2 squads in one building if you wanted, and just have both of them shoot at these guys. Or you could have a squad in this building and then another squad in, say, that building, and just shoot at them from both sides. So Braves are really, really good at killing the enemy infantry. And the absolute best part about the discus launcher, aside from its sheer rate of fire, is that it has a free range of 18. Most infantry don't have countermeasures, so these guys have an 18-inch range. Any building within 18 inches of here, they can now shoot their discus launchers at if they know the enemy is in there. But let's say your enemy's in a building and you want to get them out a little more up close and personal manner. That is where these guys come in. These are Firstborn, and in case you're wondering how big infantry figures for Drop Zone are, there you go. Firstborn are close combat monsters. So one really cool thing Firstborns could do is they have the Incapacitate special rule. This is where their wave pistols that I mentioned come in. Basically, you can discard 2 of your dice contributed by a Firstborn stand in the first step of the fight sequence to negate 1 die of any enemy base in that fight sequence. So they effectively make your opponent lose dice. Now you lose more dice, obviously, but if you have 2 squads of these guys, so you have 4 of them, you have 2 wave pistol, your opponent, and then the other 2 hit them in melee, you're actually going to be doing quite a bit. And even those 2 squads with a wave pistol, so even if you only have these 2 and you do your wave pistols, you still have 1 attack each. And these guys are great because, again, they have a close quarter battle of 4, which means they're going to hit pretty hard. So essentially, Firstborns swing a lot because you have close quarter battle of 4. So if you have 3 of them alive, that's 12 attacks per stand, which is just, it's just bananas, really. It's pretty crazy. And their energy swords can hit light vehicles. So they get stranded, you can hit something like a Wolverine or what have you. But frankly, just don't get your infantry stranded outside. It doesn't ever end well. So yeah, I mean, these guys are great because they hit hard with a lot of attacks, and they're armor 4. So your opponent actually needs a pretty high roll to damage them. They're going to need to roll a 6 on their close quarter battle to actually hurt a squad of Firstborn. And same with Braves. Armor 4 is awesome on infantry. So they make up for their lack of numbers through sheer amount of attacks. And this situation, I'd say probably 8 times out of 10 the Firstborn are going to come out on top, because this is going to be 15 attacks. You're going to hit a lot more. You only need like 2 or 3s to damage these guys, whereas they would need 6s to damage you. So Firstborn are awesome. They're not great at capturing objectives and getting them out of the way, but they're great if your opponent already has an objective. You get them in the building, take these guys down, and then you get the objective. And that's where they really shine. Or if these guys are, say, sitting here harassing your vehicles, because Legionnaires have the little missile launcher, plop a squad of Firstborns in there and go at them. Most times your opponent will probably have more than 1 squad in a building, especially a building of this size. So, throw 2 squads of Firstborns at them. So, yeah, Firstborns are great. They're an exotic choice, so they're a little trickier to fit into an army. There's not as many slots for them. But you can take them in a command group. So you can take them in the HQ slot of a Shaltari army. So you can have a Coyote and some Firstborns in a squad together. Or rather, in a battle group together, because I know my terminology. So let's take a look at the newest sort of extra thing the Shaltari have gotten. This is the Totem War Spire, and this thing is pretty neat. Stat-wise, it's armor 8, it has a movement of 0, it has a 5-up save, 4 damage points, 55 points. It's a support category. They come in size, or squad sizes of 1 with a mass of 3. The very interesting thing, like I said, this has no movement, so it can't move on its own. It can only move by being teleported through gates. What this does, though, and where it excels, is in situations just like this, where there's a lot of buildings nearby. Because this thing has a very unique rule that really benefits you. So if you find yourself in this sort of situation where you've got some infantry in a building, parking a War Spire near it works out well, because one of its weapons, quote unquote, is an energy shield. It has no energy, it's one shot, no accuracy, has a 6-inch range, can fire in any direction, and what it does is it follows the normal rules for weapons, so you need line of sight and whatnot, and you need to be in range, but it hits automatically and it grants the structure. So it grants the actual building a 5-up save until either the totem is next activated or dematerialized, or if it's killed. That is crazy good, because it makes buildings harder to kill, especially smaller buildings. So if there's an objective in a little building, or you got guys camping in a little building across from an objective trying to shut down your opponent, parking one of these next to it or within 6 inches of it, you throw up that shield. If your opponent tries to blow up that building, it's going to take even longer to do. And it already takes a really long time to blow up a building in this game. So that's really cool. Now, that 5-up save is not affected by the Dream Snare, so you can't park a Dream Snare next to the building and then make the building a 4-up, at least as far as I know, because it doesn't make the building a Shaltari unit. So, if that's something that's been answered in FAQ or whatever, and I just am unaware, let me know. Dave, if you're watching and I'm getting that wrong, let me know. Now, the War Spire isn't completely defenseless. Like I said, it's armor 8. It does have 2 other weapons. It's got an energized atmosphere, which is energy 6, 3 shots, 3-up accuracy, 6-inch range. All of its weapons have move and fire 0, obviously, because it can't move. Front, side, rear arcs, and AA. So this can fire in reaction at aircraft. So it essentially gets you another bit of anti-aircraft firepower, which is really cool. The other weapon it has is its energy beam. This is its primary weapon. Energy 12, 1 shot, accuracy of 2 plus, 12-inch range, full 360 firing arc, and it has alt 1 with the energy shield. So you can't fire the energy beam and the energy shield in the same turn, but you could fire the energy beam and the energized atmosphere in the same turn if you really wanted to. So this does have a way to fight back, especially energy 12. It has a way to fight back against a lot. But its biggest problem, as I said, is its movement 0. It can only move through other gates, and you need at least an Eden to move it, because it's energy, or mass 3 rather. It's very unique. However, it does have a very cool special rule where it's called lightning reflexes. So it can fire its weapons on the same turn that it materializes or dematerializes. So what it can do is it can materialize, so it could not be there, and then you could drop a dropship, plop it there, and then it could fire. It could give this building its save, it could shoot its energy somewhere, or its energy beam, it could shoot down an enemy aircraft, whatever. You can also do that in reverse. You could shoot its weapons and then dematerialize it. Now, like I said, the structure shield, the energy shield weapon, if you put it on this building and then dematerialize this building immediately loses that 5-up. So you have to keep this nearby to get that. But otherwise, it's very cool. It's the only unit in the game that I'm aware of that can sort of pop in and out of dropships and then still shoot stuff. So it gives you a lot of flexibility even though it can't move on its own. Alright guys, so that covers the others of the Shaltari army. For the infantry, like I said, they both serve their purpose and they both have their tactics and their uses. You get Braves in the starter boxes. I definitely recommend picking up Braves, but picking up a squad or two of Firstborns is also really fun because they're really killy and they're really, really fun to use, and people really seem to hate going up against them because you can just plop them out of an AT or APC into a building and then just go on a murder bonanza with them. But the thing you have to be careful with your infantry is, yeah, they're harder to kill, but you only have 3 damage points to a stand. So you gotta be a little finessey with them. The War Spire is awesome. It's a crazy cool looking model, and its rules are really unique, and being able to give buildings a passive save is just amazing. It really, really makes a difference in a game. And, you know, for 55 points, why not? Especially because it still has an Energy 12 weapon and an AA weapon. So you have a lot of firepower. So you can shoot an Energy 12 gun and an AA gun, or you can shoot an AA gun and give a building a counter save. You know, you can do a lot with it. So it's a really cool unit, and I really recommend picking one up. I don't know if I'd run more than one in an army, because they are 100% dependent on dropships. So unlike, say, a War Strider, if your dropships get blown up or there's not one nearby, this thing's just a big immobile target. It's still armor 8 with 4 damage points, so it's not completely unsurvivable, but yeah, I wouldn't bring more than one personally. I would love to see somebody who brings a lot in an army and see what it does, but I wouldn't do it myself. I'm not that brave. So anyway guys, thanks for watching. I really hope you guys have enjoyed these Shaltari tips and tactics videos. Let us know below what you think of the videos, and if you guys like them as much as I see that you do so far, then be sure to tune in for our next set of tips and tactics videos where we'll be talking about the United Colonies of Mankind. And don't forget, if you want an awesome Drop Zone Commander army, be sure to email us at projects@bluetablepainting.com. Talk to Steve. He'll get you all hooked up. Also be sure to check out bluetablestore.com. We have bundle deals for Drop Zone Commander where you can get the pre-built armies, and we will paint those up for you and make them look awesome. So guys, thanks again for watching. Hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you guys later.